Welcome back for ChainLink Technical Analysis. And what have we got here today? Well, we've had a positive day on the prices. That's very good. The current price here against Bitcoin is 38,000. Current price against the dollar is $2.50. And we're looking at having done quite well recently. So that's very, very good. Now, just looking to the broader markets as well. The broader markets have done all right. You can see these 3-week candles here on the SPY, for instance, and that. But would it get very bullish off the back of just this here? Not really. There's definitely a lot of chop on the go, and we haven't turned things around in terms of the trend at all yet, really. And the same thing can really be said for the overall, just for everything that's a risk on asset really currently, that we're not out of the woods yet, and that's kind of to be remembered. The first thing that we need to do to get sort of towards being out of the woods would be get above this 39,515 level on the Bitcoin prices, and on the dollar prices, the first thing that we need to really do is establish ourselves above this 200 simple moving average. Now that we're in here trying to test it, of course, as well, that goes hand in hand with establishing ourselves above the 236 and the 786 retracement points. But now we're here, we've got to then say that we'll put our bullish caps on for now, because that's the way that we'll do things in around this channel. But this would be how we would want to look towards these areas for risk management and entries and exits and stuff on longs. I'm not financial advisor, I'm not financial advice, rather than exactly where we are right now, unless you, of course, you're trying to play this 200 simple, and that's specifically where you're looking at, in which case you'd have to be operating with very tight stops as well if you were trying to sort of manage it in that area. It's a bit of a toughie. We're below it currently, so we'll have to see if we can actually manage to make it above it and stay above it. But you know, we've got overhead resistance here with a confluence of things. We've got the 200, is that 200 or 233? I've got that set to, doesn't really matter. We've got another one of those important moving averages in right there. We've got the Cyan line there, which I drew in as well as a horizontal resistance area for us, you know, right now, $1 or $2.66, and there's a lot in there which could potentially give us another opportunity to look towards lower for entries or exits or whatever, depending on how you're shorting it as well. But before getting too carried away with it, being excited, you know, we've still not even gone up and tested the 21 yet, and doing so would take us up to the 618, and of course then that could be as well where you find all the retracement that you're going to get on this. So we have to see how things pan out. It's much more sort of complicated than just simply looking towards where the trend is when things are turning around, if that's the case. So an assessment of whether things have turned around or not occurs here with the DMI, for instance, as a starting point, and things haven't yet. But like everything else, if you look to the lower time frames, it looks like maybe they might want to soon. Maybe it's kind of indecisive here on the 12-hour. You go down to the 4-hour, and it looks like they very much have, you know. So we're looking for this sort of thing happening over here on the 24-hour before we could actually start to say that, look, you know, things have actually turned around. In the meantime, we're just going to manage our risk in around things like these moving averages and the 236 and 786 and stuff like that we have on the charts already. Looking over towards the tether prices, this is Binance chart. We can see, of course, where we had this triangle and we got this breakout that we've really not had the full measured move off the back of that, really. We said that we wouldn't really be looking for that. If it did happen, though, we would be up towards this 21 EMA and, of course, the 618 and $2.89. But you have these other things in here like the 200 and whatnot operating as potential sort of resistance zones, profit taking zones for us in the meantime anyhow. And this is sort of, you know, what we have to look towards over the next wee while. Will we establish ourselves above this area and go towards the upside, or will we have to come back down and retest the things that we've already had as support, starting with, of course, $2.36 there on the tether prices, and $2.32 or so on the normal dollar Coinbase prices, and then on the Bitcoin prices as well, 35,000 satoshis. If that has to happen, if it has to happen again, you know, that's probably how those things would pan out. But we'll wait and see. And if towards the upside, we've got that 39,000 as well. And before we get as high as our upper side sort of 236 Fibonacci retracement to say that we've invalidated this, because until such times as we do that, we haven't, and we have to look towards these lower targets. We have to. then that's that we've got the 21 EMA, the 55 EMA, and the 50 simple all in around that area as well. So there's quite challenges to be overcome. Should those all be overcome at the same time as making up towards here, then you're coming up with a degree of momentum, and we'll have to see how that pans out as well. Now, things haven't really overall changed that much. You can check out the previous videos for more detail, where I give more detail. You can see here that if we do come up and test against the edge of the bearish control zone on the RSI on the 24-hour time chart against Bitcoin, that we've also got the moving average coming in here, and there'll be a bit of confluence of resistance. Should we actually manage to break through that, then I'd anticipate going up towards the neutral, because that's 2 for 1, and I think that we'd at least try above that there at that point and give it a shot, as you can see sort of in the past when these sort of things have happened to the other direction. So could we do that, and maybe then afterwards get a retest of this? We could. We'll have to see how things pan out there again as well. But that's essentially it. We've crossed over on the stochastics, but really on the big time frame there isn't much to be said, and on the smaller time frames, well, anything could actually still happen as well, to be honest with you. We had the previous instances of divergence and stuff like that could have just been playing out in what we've got. We're above the 21 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. That's really quite positive. They've not been above it and managed to open and close above it since back over here at around about 50,000, where we were having highs as well. So that's good in terms of the lower time frames. We need to see this translate up towards the bigger time frames though, and get the same sort of thing happening there. Having a retest of this area down at 37, 36,000, which also would be very feasible and achievable, is happened within the last 4 hours as of the time of recording anyhow, as you can see with that wick that's there. So would we expect volatility in amongst this area? Yeah, we could. And what are we even looking at in terms of percentage moves? 6% moves every 4 hours. I think that, well, that if my chat hasn't described it for you, then maybe that number alone will. And you can see that there's so much chop and volatility around here that to make a long-term decision off the back of it would be greedy or fearful, one of the two, because you don't really need to if you were just simply kind of trading this and looking and trying to wait and find out. In terms of positional trades and like directional long-term ones, then there's areas that we need to break before we could really say that things have started to happen for us. And you can just see the clear areas when you look to the left, like the bottoms of these candles over here, for instance, giving you all that coming in where these moving averages are. So that kind of wraps us up for where we are today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it, and share this video with a friend of yours who you think that it might be relevant to, and let me know what you think in the comments down below, all that jazz, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks very much for joining me.